Hey everyone, Brendan Sander here. How are you? Thanks so much for joining me. So, yes, I got CDs in the mail from Bad Reputation Records. They are shipping to the US again, although there's some caveats with it. French record label, if you remember my last video, they were having some trouble due to new tax, regulations and things like that, but they are back. I got some stuff and I want to run through these 5 new finds from Bad Reputation Records with you guys. So we'll do that here in just a bit. But before we start, if you're new to my channel and haven't already hit the subscribe button, please do. Also leave a comment, hit like. All those things do help support my channel. I'd greatly appreciate it. And of course, as an added bonus, by turning on notifications, you'll never miss an episode and stay up to date on cool things like this, where I'm going through 5 new finds from Bad Reputation Records. So let me elaborate a little bit more before we get into it on the shipping thing, right? So I did the last video, and then all of a sudden, not just Bad Reputation Records, but a lot of overseas companies outside the US stopped shipping to the US. So they sort of found a loophole within it. They can ship up to 4 CDs, $80 value, and list it as a gift or a promo. So if you're in the US and you order 1, 2, 3, or 4 CDs, no problem, they can ship to you again. So that's cool. If you want to order larger than that, there's a couple options. They will either ship as, say, like let's say you order 6, they're going to ship it 4 and 2, or you can go over to Heavy Metal Museum, Gary Schaefer's website. They also have an eBay page. I've talked about Heavy Metal Museum on here before. I've ordered a lot from them. They're a great reseller of music, and they're here in the US, and they can ship the stuff, and they have all of the Bad Reputation Records releases. So there's always that, and that was directed to me by the owner of Bad Reputation Records, Eric Hubbard. He said, send them over to Heavy Metal Museum. So you're not taking away any sales or anything like that from Bad Reputation Records by going over to them. You now have 2 options and ways to get stuff. So let's dive into this, because there's some great stuff, new stuff to me, and things that I hopefully can turn you guys onto. And the first up is a band I had not heard about until getting the music and going through it. And it's an Australian hard rock group called the Casanovas. This release here is called Backseat Rhythm. Came out in 2023. So I believe this is their latest release. It's their 5th studio album, 10 tracks on it. And the band formed back in 1999, led by frontman Tommy Boyce, who's their guitar player and vocalist. They're a trio, probably him right there. Really good, straight up hard rock music. I would put them similar in vein and style to the band Helicopters. Hard rock with lots of melody, basically. Nothing too flashy. You can hear Kiss style music in it, more simple, straight ahead. But then with that vocal, there's that melody that like Paul Stanley does and everything with it. But it's just good rock and roll music. And obviously being from Australia, I don't know if it's just knowing that, but you hear tinges of AC/DC in the music aspect, not so much the vocal part. Tommy Boyce is a really good vocalist, but you do get it in some of the musical styling. So I would say, if you like that newer kind of rock from Stockholm, like Helicopters, or you like Kiss, and you like AC/DC, kind of imagine all of that in a blender. That's the Casanovas. And like I said, man, I'm really, really enjoying this here. So I'm definitely going to be checking out those first 4 albums that the band put out going back. But this one, Backseat Rhythms 2023, highly recommended. That is a current new love for me right now. All right, so this next one is really interesting. The group Jerusalem Slim, self-titled 1992, one and only album, so debut and only. They are an early 90s supergroup. If you grew up back in that time, you know that right around the beginning of the 90s, supergroups became really popular, probably a lot to do with the damn Yankees, but groups were just starting to pop up everywhere. We got Contraband, which is another one I really love, but it seems like they were also coming out. There were too many of them that were happening. Shadow King with Lou Gramm. Um, and I think they flooded the market, but at the same time, the musical industry was changing. So all these rockers from the 80s getting together in super groups didn't really translate when grunge music and alternative rock were the thing. So this band here, which is produced by Michael Wagner, who did Dokken. He's a German producer. I think he worked with Scorpions, but he's worked with so many great bands out there, is basically half Hanoi Rocks and half Billy Idol. So we get two members from Hanoi Rocks. We get Michael Monroe on vocals and Sammy Yaffa on bass. And then from Billy Idol's group, we get Steve Stevens on guitar and Greg Ellis on drums. Steve Stevens would go on after this to play guitar for Vince Neil on his debut solo album, Exposed. And the reason I point that out is for the next album I'm going to talk about in here, which is related to this. But let's focus on this for just a moment here, which is you get the original 9 tracks that were the album. Plus, I know that at least in the Japanese edition, because I've got a copy of that in my collection, this has the original 9 tracks, but added 2 bonus tracks to it that were demos. And those are on here. We get Rock and Roll Degradation and Teenage Nervous Breakdown cover of that great song, which I think is a Rick Derringer song, if I'm not mistaken. He might have been covering it too, but I know it from him. And then track 12 is added on, Scums Lives On. And I don't have that on my Japanese edition, so I believe that it is just a bonus track here, although maybe there's been some other reissues where that was part of. But either way, that's new to me, so I'm loving that, and it's remastered, which makes it very cool. But the music that's on here, if you like Hanoi Rocks, you're going to like this. And I would say it definitely leans more towards that, not so much Billy Idol, but if you like what Steve Stevens did with Vince Neil, then this would sort of be a cross between that sound with Michael Monroe singing. And that was one of the reasons I brought it up. Although I've got something else to tie into that, because you have an option when you buy this. You can buy just the 1-disc version of this, or there is a version that is a 2 CD and it's got a standalone Jerusalem Slim, the demos, with 12 tracks on it. And I love this. This is my absolute favorite thing that Bad Reputation Records is doing standalone bonus discs that come with it. This is just, sandwiched on the back side in shrink wrap. You take it out, you've got 2 things. And so this here is completely new to me. Those 2 demo tracks, I believe, are taken from this here, but now we're getting all 12 together. What's really cool is that 4 of the songs on here didn't make the album. So we get Delirious, which was a Hanoi Rocks song that would turn up on 12 Shots on the Rocks later on. After the band reunited, they recorded that song. So that is the song that opens this. And as soon as it started playing, I was like, oh man, I know this song, which was kind of a cool thing to know that it went back to Jerusalem Slim. Then track 3 on here called Downwardly Mobile. And I'm listening to that, and all of a sudden the refrain comes on, and they sing, Can't Have Your Cake and Eat It Too. And I realized this is a demo version of the song that would turn up on Vince Neil's solo album Exposed, simply called Can't Have Your Cake. And so that started off as a demo song for Jerusalem Slim, which later would turn up over there. And I love that. And then the 2 other songs that are on here that didn't make the album, Lights Out and Final Words. So 4 additional songs that didn't make this album, now available here. And these are great quality. And that's kind of the cool thing, is that this in and of itself stands on its own. It is so good. It puts those unreleased tracks up near the top. So you really get off to a start of a bunch of stuff you haven't heard before getting into some of the other stuff. But all in all, I think both of these are essential. And considering that the band only made the 1 album, one and done and gone, That's awesome right there. Definitely worth getting if you're a Steve Stevens fan or Michael Monroe fan. All right, so we'll move on to a West German band that I didn't know anything about until I was perusing the Bad Reputation Records website and found this. The Element Time. It's an album from 1986. It's their debut studio album, might be their only. Don't know. There's not a lot of info out, on them out there. But the band has a really interesting history. A lot of famous names went through the ranks before this album. So Herman Frank from Accept played with them. Kai Hansen of Halloween played with them. Now, neither of them are playing on this album. They were gone before they got to this point here. But that just sort of tells you the pedigree. But the album, too, is also nowhere near as hard rock or heavy as Accept or Halloween. This came out on Polygram Records back in the day, and it's melodic hard rock from the 80s. Keyboard laden, but powerful guitars behind it. So, you know, that kind of stuff that's got the keyboards up front, but it's still got rip-roaring guitars on it. And that's one of the things I love about this. But if you love 80s melodic hard rock style stuff, The Element, a West German band, is totally worth checking out. I believe it's just this trio of guys there doing it, but really, really good. Definitely recommend this. Caught my ear immediately and fell in love with it from the get-go. It was a pre-order, so I had to wait for it, and I'm so glad it finally arrived. Now on to the last thing, and the reason I'm wearing my Cinderella shirt is we finally get a reissue and remaster of glam metal legend Cinderella, Still Climbing, their 1994 fourth and final studio album, at least to date, originally released by Mercury Records. And the sound of this really continued the stripped down approach that the band had done on Heartbreak Station in 1990, but it really kind of did it even more. They were really much more of a blues hard rock band at this point than the glam metal sounds or the even metal sounds of the debut. But still very much Cinderella style. In fact, I actually like this record more than I like Heartbreak Station. That one, I don't know, it didn't flow as well for me. It had really big standout songs and then other ones that I just didn't so much care for as much. But this one is solid start to finish. It's also the only album to feature Kenny Aronoff on drums, who took over from Fred Corey, who left for one of those super groups called Arcade with Stephen Pearcy of Rat. So he wasn't part of this, but he does play on the song Hot and Bothered, which is the last track on the original album. We do get 3 bonus cuts on here, but the last track of the album. And that song came from the Wayne's World soundtrack. And it's kind of really the biggest hit off of here. That one had a video. And even though it was 1992, it was played everywhere. And I think I want to say it was the lead single off of the Wayne's World soundtrack. So it got a lot of promotion. And it's tacked on the end here because obviously 2 years on 1994, that was not the current single and hit and things of that nature. But when you listen to this, it's got a bona fide hit song on it just all the way at the end. The album itself was delayed, unfortunately, because Tom Kiefer lost his voice in 1991. So instead of getting an album out in 1992, which I think was the original intent, it held out until 1994, which was both good and bad. It was kind of the tail end of grunge, and I think it allowed the album to come out and get some recognition, and it didn't get lost in the shuffle. But had it come out in, say, 1992, like Def Leppard with Adrenalize, it might still have been very successful. There were a few bands that could come out in 92, and they were still big enough to draw the audience. Cinderella might have been able to do it. Poison did it in 93 with Native Tongue, still having a big hit off of that album. Cinderella probably could have done it, but anyway, we'll never know at this point. Great album. What was also cool about this is that at least 2 of these songs, Talk is Cheap and Free Willin', both of which were singles, were actually from back in the day. I've got a demo recording of them from 85. I know they were playing them in the clubs. So those are songs from before they were signed finally seeing the light of day on this. There's other stuff that is actually newly written for it, but I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, you're getting stuff that was classic Cinderella material finally being worked on here. The bonus tracks that are on this are Move Over and War Stories, which are taken as the two unreleased or new songs that were tacked onto this. Once Upon a, as in Once Upon a Time. This was their first best of collection that came out, and I remember flipping my lid for it because we got those two new songs. They're the very last ones, tracks 14 and 15, because this is a chronological release of all the singles. Loved having that on here. And I don't know if there are outtakes from these sessions, perhaps so. Maybe that's why they're now being included, because I'm pretty sure they were not newly recorded for this. I think they were B-sides and stuff that were used. Move Over, I think, is the Janis Joplin song, War Stories. I don't remember its reference, but those are now tacked on here, so you get that, and you get a version of Shelter Me included. So those are the three bonus tracks on this, but the big deal is it's remastered. And so, yeah, there you go, man. That's the 5 new finds that I picked up from Bad Reputation Records. And as I said, back in business, shipping to the US. So I was glad to finally get some stuff from them. This package comes as, quote, 1 CD. So they considered that 4, and that's how they were able to ship to me here in the US. But definitely head over and check out Bad Reputation Records for, you know, all their upcoming stuff. They've got some cool stuff that's pre-ordered right now for new releases coming down the road. And head over to Heavy Metal Museum, run by Gary Schaefer, where you can get a bunch of Bad Reputation Records stuff. I love going through their eBay page because I can, you know, search via genre and stuff like that. But all in all, you got a lot of cool ways to get your Bad Reputation Records music again, because it is such a cool label. So quick shout out and thank you to Eric Kubar, the owner of the label itself, for sending me this stuff, allowing me to share it with you guys, and for figuring out a way to ship again, because we got to have our music. We can't not have our access to it. And he, being a music fan, helped figure that out for us. So thank you, Eric. All right, everyone, take care. Have a good one, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye, guys.